And there's a lot of like pretty heavy drum-centric stuff in the Ed Sheeran show, which I love to see.
Some of these songs are like the theme tunes to people's lives, man. And because of the perspective that we've got, where we're kind of like in the crowd, I get to interact with the fans. So it's a completely different thing to where we're all on stage together.
Go. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. We have an incredible guest for you today, an amazing musician, an incredible drummer that I love watching on the internet. He's been crushing the Ed Sheeran tour, just finished massive stadium tour with Ed Sheeran. We're going to talk all about it and him and the UK scene. Ladies and gentlemen, make a ton of noise for Dexter Hercules.
Wow, oh, the music. Oh my gosh, this is great. The crowd is going wild.
What's up, man? I typed in stadium because I know you're used to stadiums now. So I don't know if the stadium noise came through or not, but
I heard it.
you know,
Wow,
there was
man,
like there was choices between, it was like clinic audience. I was like too small. Yeah. It was like theater show audience. I was like, no, he's a stadium dog now.
Oh my days. Listen, it's a blessing to be here. Thank you so much, Elmo, for having me.
You and I met on Instagram like 2018. I was looking through the DMs to find out when it was. Big fan of your playing, and
Thank you.
I've been watching your growth over the years, man. Like, just first of all, a fan of you, just shredding on the drums. Incredible drummer. And then seeing you now with Ed Sheeran playing these stadiums, man, I was like so happy to see that it was you on the gig. Once Ed finally decided to have a drummer, because he's so much of a one-man show and he's so captivating alone. So the fact that he thought, I want to have a drummer, I want to have a band, and you got selected for that is incredible, man. So I was so happy to see that. And so we were talking online, and I was like, yo, man, let's get you on the pod. Let's talk about it. You're going to be in LA. And of course, are you in London? Where are you?
I'm currently in London. I'm at home. I live in South London.
South London. Wasn't gonna be in LA in a minute, and I was like, you know what? Let's do this virtual. So now this is the first virtual episode of Go. So thank you everybody for watching. If you're on YouTube, cool. you'll notice that I'm still in the HQ. We got Dexter beaming in from London, and if you're listening audio only, it shouldn't matter at all to you. It'll be the exact same thing. So, my guy. How are you, Dexter, man? Great to finally hang with you, man.
Man, I'm okay. Thank you so much. What a great introduction. It's just great to connect. This is the great thing about technology. It's 2024. We can do this online. You know, I wish that I was actually there in LA to come into the office, come into the studio and check you guys. But hopefully I'll be out there next year at some point. So it'd be great to kind of like meet up in person and hang out. But as for now, I'm in Southeast London. I'm currently in my studio, and here we are.
Amazing. We were joking that this show could also be not just a drummer, and as you can see, Dexter is far more than just a drummer. So,
man.
Yeah, man. And I just want to start off by saying, I see you, man. I've been watching you. I see the rise, dude. I've been watching you killing it. I've been seeing you do these clinics. And everything. I saw you playing with our boy Devin Sticks Taylor.
My brother.
I love Devin. You know, he's the guy. And
That's my
and
brother.
yeah, man. So you're doing great. And man, you're a good content creator. If you guys aren't following Dexter Hercules, it's at D Hercs, right? Hercs.
Yeah.
He's good. It's like, let me take you in the day of the life of being Ed Sheeran's drummer. Like,
And do you know what it is with the content? Like it seems to be like, look, there's no kind of way to do content, and I found that like you can be on Instagram and post like the most killing drum clip, and like you've spent hours or days in the studio trying to get all of your chops, and then you post it and people might not see it.
yeah.
You know, like it just depends on the algorithm sometimes, you know. And then earlier this year, I was on the road with Ed. I was in sound check. This ant found its way onto my China cymbal. And for some reason, I was like so bored. And I thought, this would be cool if I film it in slow motion and just hit the cymbal and see what happens. And I hit the cymbal in slow-mo and the ant just went flying. 8 million views. And counting.
Come
8 million
on.
views on Instagram. And I'm like, oh my God, like I spent all this time practicing this song to post for Instagram. And then the thing that's got the most views is me just hitting this cymbal and the ant flying home to his family. There's no rules. There's no rules to content, you know. So I just started doing these kind of like day in the life and just showing people kind of what happens, prepping on a gig for like Ed Sheeran or,
Absolutely.
you know, just these kind of things. And
I
people
love
seem
it,
to
man.
like it, you know.
Yeah, it's great. You have a great personality. It really puts you out there. I think that's an important thing. We talk a lot about this on the pod of being an entrepreneur. And I think all these things matter, like all these little things, because at the end of the day, yeah, you're a drummer. Yeah, you make your living from playing drums, but like you got to constantly stack these gigs, right? Yeah, you're on Ed
Sure.
Sheeran right now. That's great. But then like, okay, Ed doesn't play for 6 months, right? You got to go have
Yeah.
what are your other sources of income? And I think that's what's so good about your storytelling and these kind of things. It brings awareness to you. It shows
Thank
that
you.
you're
Yeah.
a vibe, that you're a good dude. Because no one wants a super talented weirdo. You got to
It's
be a
true.
good
Yeah.
person.
Well, do you know what the thing is as well? Is that like we've got loads of followers who are musicians and loads of
Yeah,
followers who aren't musicians who have no idea
yeah,
like what a typical day is like. You know, the musicians know,
yeah,
you know, but the people who aren't, like the people who work 9 to 5 in an office or they work in a school or whatever, they've got no idea. So when they see this kind of content, those are the people that are really like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, you know? So you have to try
absolutely.
and make content for everyone, not just like a killing video of you doing a solo that might go over
Yeah,
somebody's head, you know?
yeah, for sure. And man, so what's so cool is with this Ed Sheeran gig, I've watched a bunch of clips. I haven't been lucky enough to see it in person yet, but yeah, I definitely hope to
It's a
catch it.
great gig, man.
Man, I want to talk about like the stage plot looks wild, like it's in the round and you guys are on your own like islands around Ed and there's people all
Yeah.
around you, and I want to talk about that and also like it seems like there's just this huge spectrum of the show of like you guys playing like Ed's hits, but then also ripping. Like you guys are really like riffing hard and rocking and you're laying into it. So before we get into that, really I would love to know like how did you get the gig with Ed Sheeran?
A good friend of mine who is the MD. Look, this is just kind of like a standard phone call kind of situation, you know. I'm like some gigs you have to audition for. Some gigs it's just who you know. Sometimes it's you bump into somebody and you know they're talking to you about it. But in this scenario, the MD, Ashton Miranda, he's a good friend of mine. He plays keys on the gig. He just called me up and said that the gig was available, and we kind of started talking about it from there. Asked me if I was around on such and such date, and I was like, "Yep, I'm not doing anything." And it was as simple as that for me.
Because he already knew you, he already loved your playing and everything, obviously.
Yeah. I'd
Yeah.
not actually worked with Ash before, but we knew of each other. We had some mutual friends as well. So I think this was kind of like a word of mouth situation and a situation of convenience where obviously I was around. I was able to do it. And as soon as he said what gig it was, I mean, it's just one of those opportunities that you don't pass up.
Absolutely. So it was the kind of situation like, yo, I mean, it's kind of hilarious to think of it as like, hey, the gig's available. And it's like Ed Sheeran. Would you like
Yeah.
it? It's available. And like, so you go, and then what do you do? Do you do a rehearsal with the band? Do you jam with Ashton? Is there already a full ensemble? Or do you go like, at what point does Ed get into the mix? Like, how does that go?
Well, in this case, we had it was kind of similar time this time last year. Ed was doing like a kind of one-off set of gigs at this venue in London, the Royal Albert Hall. I don't know if you've heard of the Royal Albert Hall.
Absolutely.
Amazing,
Legendary venue.
legendary,
Yeah.
amazing venue. And Ed had some kind of one-off gig. So he does like the big stadium shows, and then sometimes he does like gigs that for him are intimate, but it's in the Albert Hall. It's still
Yeah. A small
but that's kind
4,000
of like a
people.
small
Yeah.
thing for him, which is crazy. But he had a few gigs there this time last year, so it was great for me to kind of use as a bit of a warm up
Yeah.
to the stadium show. But on this particular gig, he just played songs from an album that he brought out last year. So we wasn't even playing like the big hits. We was just playing like this kind of one-off show with only these album songs. So it was just one of those situations. I got sent the songs, came into rehearsals, made sure that I knew everything. And yeah, we rehearsed for maybe about a week or so, and then straight in. And Ed is so cool. He's so chilled. He's the type of guy that will just come straight into rehearsals. As long as it sounds good to him, he's great. And he's like, all right, cool, let's go. And I'm like, you sure you don't want to run it? You don't want to run it again? Like, do you know what I mean? But he really trusts the band, and he really trusts like Ash's decisions as an MD.
Yeah.
So as long as Ed's comfortable, he can hear what he needs to hear.
Yep.
He's really, really chilled with that, the kind of rehearsal process.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and sometimes when you're working with an artist like that, it kind of throws you because you're almost used to, in some cases, over rehearsing.
Yes.
But actually, when you get with somebody that just trusts the whole process, trusts everybody that he's put in place, it makes it really, really simple.
I'm just assuming that also the unsaid, since Ed isn't here to say, I'm sure that when he sat in and you guys did your thing, he was probably like, yep, sounds great. Cool. We don't need to beat this down. You guys are already killing it.
Literally
You did your job.
Like that. Literally like that. So
Yeah.
like when that happens, you're like, okay, cool. Like if he didn't like it, and normally if he doesn't like something or if something sticks out, then he'll say. If he doesn't say anything, then it's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I right when I started Jam Card, because I was drumming and music directing Christina Perri
Sure.
before Jam Card, and then so I stopped touring and went all in on Jam Card, and then she ended up going out on the Ed Sheeran tour. And so she invited me out because I had hung with her and Ed and broed down with Ed before. He's a sweetheart of a guy, like such a good
Yeah.
hang. And so I ended up just going out on the tour for like a week or two, and riding along. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
even drumming. It's the only time I've really done that, where I just
Yeah.
like went on tour for fun with Ed and Christina. And that was when Benny Blanco was on the tour as well with his own recording studio bus, and Ed was like riding with him every day. So a lot of the times it was just like me and Ed and Benny. But I got to really intimately see how awesome of a guy he is, and how chill of a dude he is, and how super talented he is. Because I was like, how on earth do you as an individual keep an audience captivated with just you and your acoustic guitar and loop stations, right? And then he did such an amazing job doing that. And he's done that for years and years on all these tours. So I know it must be a big deal for him to be like, okay, now I want this full live band thing.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't need it. He's proven that he can
Absolutely.
sell
Yeah.
out stadiums, just him on guitar, right?
Absolutely. Do you know what is like the most unique show that I've ever been a part of? You know, and you're 100% right. Like he can control an audience just with him and a guitar in a venue like a stadium where there's thousands of people. Like I've never seen anything like it, and he's so talented. And I just think it's a thing like when the band come in, it kind of just enhances it and maybe just gives the audience a different dynamic because he's been doing the guitar for so long.
Yeah.
His fans are used to him and the guitar. So all of a sudden, like when the band is coming in and we're rocking out, like everybody's like they're looking. It's a lot. Do you know what I
It's
mean?
a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. But he's enjoying it, and to be a part of his show, like he has obviously a big section of his show where it's just him,
Mhm.
and then there's a big chunk where it's the band,
Yeah.
and I'm loving it. You know, for me, it's different. It's different to kind of being in those scenarios where you're playing on stage heavy for like 2 hours. Do
Yeah,
you know what I
for
mean?
sure.
But this is actually a good contrast.
Since you were saying it, because I know you have a lot of experience, obviously shredding and playing like more fusion and like everything that
Yeah,
you do
yeah.
and more drum centric stuff. Even though in these clips that I've been seeing, there's a lot of like pretty heavy drum centric stuff in the Ed Sheeran show, which I love to see. But
Yeah,
also
yeah.
you're playing these hits, man, in these stadiums. So like, what does it feel like to play these massive hits in stadiums?
Oh, it's incredible, man. Like Ed's one of those artists. I remember like when I was learning the songs, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this song. Oh yeah, and this song. And then like it's so weird as well when you're playing for like an artist that is like current. So like I'll go out and hear his song in a restaurant or hear it in the shopping center or something like that. Be like, oh man, like I forgot about that song as well. Like, and when you're playing these songs and you're seeing some of these songs are like the theme tunes to people's lives, man.
Yeah.
Like every day in the show, somebody proposes. You
Yeah.
know,
Wow.
like these are like proper tunes that like mean a lot to a lot of people. So when you're like playing, it's a lovely moment. I find myself like singing along, you know, and because of the perspective that we've got where we're kind of like in the crowd as well,
Yeah.
it's quite cool because I'm like, I get to interact with the fans as well. And the fans feel like they're a part of the experience. They're a part of it with us in the band as well. So it's a
Absolutely.
completely different thing to like the normal where we're all on stage together.
It's so
You
cool,
know?
man. Yeah. Can we talk about the stage plot? Like,
Yeah.
describe the stage plot, if you could be visual for the people that are listening.
All right. So
If you haven't seen these clips yet, they're wild, man. It's so cool.
it's crazy, but how can I explain it? I mean, Ed is in, we call it the round. So Ed is like right in the center of the stadium. Ed's got a huge stage, and he kind of like that. The stage kind of rotates, so he's able to access every part of the crowd whilst he's going around. And then us guys are in like the 4 different corners. So I'm like here. Over to my right, you've got Ash who's playing the keys. To Ash's right, over on the other side of the stage, you've got guitars, 2 guitars on the gig. And then to my left is the bass player and the violinist as well. And we're all playing at the same time. We're doing BVs. And the cool thing about it is that nothing is to click. It's
Wow.
all live. It's
That's
all live.
crazy.
So it's because Ed as well is not really like used to the click. He doesn't need to be because
Yeah.
he just does it himself with his loop station.
He's got a great. I've seen his like up close when I was on the on that run. I saw the whole Ableton rig, and the loop station is wild.
Oh, it's insane, man.
Wild. And he
Yeah, it's
mastered
pretty
it.
cool.
So that's, I was thinking about that of like, are you guys playing to click or are you guys just vibing? So man, so that's really crazy. Are you doing tap tempo or anything or any sort of, or are you just vibing?
It's just all in here. Like
That's why you got Hercules on the drums, bro.
Yes, sir.
Come on now.
Like, yeah, we just have to memorize the tempos, you know. And at this point, I'm used to it now. I know what tempos are for what songs, you know.
Yeah, but you know, it's different. The excitement level of playing a stadium is quite different. So in order to be able to know your internal metronome for even starting songs and hitting in that tempo, that's how are you controlling that?
I think that's just one of those things like when you get used to it every day, you know. I mean, I will know if I'm playing a song like Thinking Out Loud, I'll know if it's too fast, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes I know he's quite far from me, but I can also tell from his playing, if he wanted to slow down, then he would slow down, and then we can all do that. And
Mm.
the cool thing about it is that it's just so organic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It just feels like it's a band playing together, jamming. Do you know what I mean? And I think that element of it keeps it real,
Yeah.
you know, so it's definitely fun.
How is it like working with Ashton as musical director?
Ashton's incredible, man. He knows what he wants. He's really clear with what he wants everybody to play, but at the same time, he kind of gives you the freedom within Ed world. You know, like I can't do the clinic stuff or whatever, like the crazy stuff that I would do on the Ed gig. Ash is also like, do you, be yourself, and if the moment feels like you need to play up a little bit, then do it.
It's amazing.
And he's the
dude.
same with everybody for that.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm assuming Ed loves you digging in when you're digging in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, like we've got some songs where we're rocking out, and it's crazy because like you've got like the pyro and the lights. It's like it's a lot.
And I saw Thor came and played your kit. There was
That was insane.
Chris Hemsworth.
That guy, man, like,
Was he any good?
he was good. He was good.
Okay.
He did his thing. I mean, it was one of those like, it was kind of surreal because like I'm like a Marvel fan. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like a proper Marvel fan. So when I heard that he was coming, I was like, jeez. And then you see him in real life, he's like a proper unit, like over 6 foot. He's in shape, like he's ready to be Thor right now. You know, and then he comes and he's like big muscles on your kit, like geez, man. And he was digging in. But
Like,
he had
watch
to
it, dude, the
learn
heads
how
are
to
new.
play drums in like a short space of time. And his first gig just happened to be in a stadium in front of thousands of people. That was his first ever gig. But it was pretty cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
Dude, I'd love to hear what the London session scene is like right now. Can you break it
Yeah.
down to me? Because I mean, I'm born and raised LA, so I know the LA scene inside out, and I know the US scene in general: New York, Atlanta, Miami, Nashville. But they're all so different. Like every individual scene has its own ecosystem and its own key players and the way it operates and its own genres that are bigger in certain areas than others. So yeah, what is the London session scene like right now?
It's definitely growing. It's definitely thriving. I mean, like, there's so much incredible musicians. I mean, and being from like a smaller place like London, England, compared to the States, there's a lot of musicians who like you guys don't know that over here have like played on countless records and doing amazing gigs. But sometimes for us, it depends on how big the artist gets, whether you would hear them or not.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to play for somebody like Ed, who everybody knows. Do you know what I mean? Worldwide. But there's a lot of British pop acts that maybe are bigger in like just Europe or Australia that might not go to the States,
Yep.
but they're huge in Europe. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So there's some amazing artists in terms of like the scene and the music. There's like a real vibrant UK jazz scene that is really starting to blow up with musicians like Yusuf.
Yep.
If
Yusuf
Yusuf
Days.
Days.
Yeah.
We went to school together, me and Yusuf. Like Yusuf's been
Really?
Yeah, we went to the same school. Like Yusuf's from South London as well.
What school
He's
is that?
Forest Hill Boys. Shout out to Forest Hill Boys. And there's a lot of
Is that high school Is that
Yeah, that's
university?
that's high
High
school
school.
for us. And there's a lot of musicians that's kind of like coming out of this UK jazz scene, whether it's drummers, good friend of mine, Ruben James, who's, you know, Ruben, like he's
Oh yeah,
insane.
insane.
He's a beast. Ezra Collective, that's my boy Femi on drums.
Hmm.
Like there's a lot of musicians that are like really starting to come through and really kill it and really start to get like the recognition that they deserve. But we've been watching these guys kill it for years.
Is
You
this
know,
like Ronnie Scott's? Is that the home still? Is that like for that whole scene?
Ronnie's is the place, man.
Yeah,
Ronnie's is the place. I literally played there like last week with my friend who's like my big sister, Vula Malinga. And
amazing.
Vula's an incredible singer. She's like one of my favorites to play for. But she's worked with a lot of American artists and Quincy Jones and Robert
Hmm.
Glasper. She's worked with everybody. We play like a residency at Ronnie Scott's every month. And if you come to Ronnie Scott's on any given day, you'll see some insane jazz musicians, some insane singers that are absolutely blazing.
Yes.
You know, so the scene is definitely thriving. And, you know, if you ever get a chance to come over to London, or anybody gets a chance to come over to London, go down to places like Ronnie Scott's. There's like a regular open mic night that I play at called Troy Bar. This is like a kind of soul R&B type of night, every Tuesday. And that place has been going for years, like 15 odd years, you know. Everybody's passed through there. Who a lot of like musicians who come into town, they'll go there, or singers. So yeah, there's definitely places.
So, and outside Ed Sheeran, because we already spent a bunch of time doing that. So, even before Ed Sheeran, like, what is your life like? What are you doing as being a professional musician in London? Like, how is that? What's the grind like? What's
It's it was always moving. Before I did Ed, I was on The Voice. I was playing on The Voice.
Oh no way, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was playing on the UK Voice for maybe like 4 years, 3.5, 4 years. And I
Who's
took
music
over
directing
from
that?
Ash Sowen.
From Ash Sowen. Yes, Ash is the homie.
Yeah, and Ash, yeah, Ash is like, everyone knows Ash, man. Ash, that's my guy. That's big bro, and he's, you know, killing it. Session guy, recording. He recorded for everybody, you
Yeah,
know. But I took over that TV show from Ash, and I was doing
that's
that
awesome.
for like 4 years, and that was insane. Like to be
Who's the
part
musical
of
director?
David Tench,
Nice.
keyboard player. You know, shout out to Dave. He's incredible. There's some absolutely killing musicians on that gig. My good friend Ben Jones on guitar, Ben Epstein on bass, Jake Edwards Wood on keys. And that gig's like a machine. That's like, you know, going through over 100 songs. You're rehearsing like 20 odd songs per day. It's a heavy reading gig.
Yeah, I've heard how intense those gigs are.
It's so intense.
It's so intense. Yeah.
It's so intense. And that's like one of those gigs where it's TV, there's no do-overs.
Yeah, you got to
One
be
and done,
ready to go.
in and out, you know. So prior to Ed, I was doing that. I do like some orchestra stuff. I was doing some film stuff as well. And then prior to that as well, just pop gigs, jazz gigs, still playing in church. I grew up playing in church,
Yep.
you know, so like a bit of everything.
You know, it's funny whenever I go to London and I'm like in my small hotel rooms and all this kind of stuff, I'm always like, how did drummers make it here? Like, how do you, like, when you're becoming, you know what I mean? Like, where
It's
do you
not too
practice?
far
Where
off.
do you
Like, the thing
play?
is it's
Church, of
not
course,
too
right?
far off.
Yeah.
Like what you guys would know, especially in places like LA or New York, for
Yeah.
example. It's not too far off, you know, like there's obviously little differences, cultural differences and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But generally, like even like church, you know, like church, what I'm used to in the UK is not really different to church what cats know about in the States. You
Yep.
see the same things, like it's the
Yep.
same killing musicians and the same like you see musicians who are could already be professional and they're like 4 years old. Like you see the
These
same
young killers. Young
young
killers.
killers, man. Like you see
Man.
the same kind of
Yeah.
things.
So all right, so we're both Pearl guys, both playing Pearl drums.
Sure.
And I know you're a Zildjian guy too. I've watched a bunch of those videos of you playing like the Zildjian sessions and Vic Firth and stuff. Like, so, and I feel like you're such an expressive player, and like I feel like you really develop. It seems like you have a relationship with like your drums and your cymbals. Like
Oh,
for you,
thank
when you're
you.
playing, especially more of like the you stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you just tapped into a flow state, or what's it feel like to you? What's your mind like when you're really going in on one of these tracks?
Yeah, I guess I am like tapped into a flow state for sure. I think for me, I'm starting to get to a point as well where like I just embrace like the mistakes.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, like I don't really try to focus on them. I'm a lefty as well. So I spend a lot of time like when you're a lefty and you're trying to transcribe things and watch all these like right-handed drummers like do things, it can be really difficult, you know, because they're starting on their right hand and I'm used to starting on my left. But
Yeah.
in doing that and watching all these musicians play, I've just kind of developed like my own thing. You
Yeah.
know, I've watched a lot of, you know, friends from the States play and I've tried to take little bits of what they've got, but I've also taken a lot of this like UK influence and watched so much of these like UK musicians that it's just a bit of a melting pot for me.
Yeah.
And I always play with a smile on my face. I'm
Yeah.
always smiling and I try to like, you know, let that come out as well. And I just try to go for it, man.
You do.
Thank you. Yeah, I just
Makes me
go
want
for
to
it.
play.
You just got to embrace like how you play. Sometimes I go through phases where I don't watch anybody at all.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like you've just got to try it. I know it sounds cliche, but we're in such a age where like you can watch a clip and be so heavily influenced by whoever you've seen on Instagram or YouTube, you
Yeah.
start sounding like that person.
Mm-hmm.
And you stray like so far away from your thing and what makes you good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like, especially being from over here as well in London, like I'm just gonna play. If people like it, they like it. If they don't like it, I don't care.
Yeah.
You just gotta embrace how you play, man.
When you were originally starting on drums and you're a lefty, did you want your left foot to be the kick drum? And you had to kind of train yourself because you play open on a right-handed kit, right? That's that's your
Yeah,
rig. So, which I think is actually a huge advantage once
I
you're
love it.
actually tapped in. I think it's. I remember growing up watching Carter Buford playing with Dave
Yeah,
Matthews Band, and I was always like, I wish I could do that. And I put my ride cymbal over to my left, and I ended up wanting to play open and taught myself to do it because I was like, man, if you get comfortable on this, I think it's such an advantage because being cross-handed doesn't make sense. That's not easier,
yeah.
right? But like, so yeah, did you have to train yourself to be right foot dominant on the kick? Or was it always already kind of like that?
That for me was kind of natural, which is strange because I play a lot of football, right?
Yeah.
Soccer, but football.
We know what it is. We know. I'm
And
with you on football. I'm with you. We'll keep it there.
that's right. But I'm left-footed.
Okay, yeah.
So actually, like my left foot is naturally stronger. But growing up in my house, I didn't really like. I don't come from like a musical family. I'm like the first musician in my family, and I
Wow.
didn't grow up seeing drummers. I like it. It took years for me to see drummers. I heard a lot of music in the house, but the music that I grew up listening to was kind of like reggae, dancehall, like heavily Caribbean influenced music. I didn't grow up like watching drummers. My mum moved to like she kind of found a church for us later on in life, probably around the time I was like 10 or so. For like gospel musicians, it's kind of late
Yeah.
because those guys have already like grown up seeing it. So the first time I'm
Yeah.
actually like seeing drummers play, I had already like been behind the kit and just thought that being left-handed and being open-handed just made sense because I write with my left hand. So I just sat behind the kit and just played open-handed before actually seeing the majority of drummers lead with their right. So I
Yeah.
just thought that that was normal for me.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just stuck with it.
Thank God. That made your
Yeah.
life way easier.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it took ages for me to like realize that most drummers were right-handed and they played like this. I spent a long time playing my ride like this, like I would cross over, which just became like really awkward for me.
Yeah.
So I kind of taught my right hand to play like how everybody else does. So I've just got this weird style where like I'm ride with my right and play open with my left.
You
So
look
it's like
super
sometimes
comfortable,
people
man.
don't really know exactly what hand I use, but I just kind of just adapted both.
Yeah, you've done a great job because you look very comfortable in playing
Thanks,
whichever
man.
way I see you playing.
Thanks. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
found a way to make both work.
Yeah.
And luckily, you know, growing up, the teachers that I had and stuff like that never told me to change.
Yeah.
You know, I've got some friends who are left-handed but play right-handed because they were told to,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what they saw, so they thought that that was the correct way.
For
You know,
sure.
luckily for me, nobody kind of told me that it was wrong, so I
Yeah.
just stuck with it.
So I see you playing all these clinics and stuff, which is like a whole other world. So
Yeah.
how did you get into the clinic world? How did you start there? And how do you get these clinic gigs?
I don't know. I don't know if there's like a right or wrong answer on how to get clinics, you know, because I know there's a lot of drummers who would love to do them, you
Yeah.
know.
Drummers like dream of doing clinics.
Of course, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I just think that I've been really blessed that people want to see what I can do.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that there's like a right or wrong way on like, this is how you angle yourself to do clinics. You know, to be honest with you, like, I feel like I'm just winging it most of the time. Like, I'm not
sure.
like the best teacher. Like, a lot of the time I do lessons. And when I teach, the first thing that I say to people is like, my way is not the way.
Mhm.
Like, just if you're comfortable with what I'm teaching you, then cool. But I'm not teaching like by the book. I'm just winging it. And whatever works for me, hopefully it works for you.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
for
in
sure.
terms of like doing the clinics and stuff like that, I think people have just been interested, especially kind of from my part of the world.
Mhm.
People have just been interested in the way that I play and maybe the things that I say or the things that I'm able to teach them.
Well, so now you've been doing clinics, so people see you doing and they see you do a great job and they want you to do it. But like, how did like one of your endorsers give you your first clinic, or was it like a music store, or like how did it kind of start? Was it just people just calling you?
One of the first clinics that I did was for a good friend of mine, Mike Dolbear.
Yep, love Mike.
Mike's the guy.
Yeah.
I've known Mike since I was 14.
Really?
I did
Wow.
the Young Drummer of the Year competition, which is like a huge competition, especially over here. So Mike kind of knew me as a drummer who was also able to do solos, because
Yep.
when you're doing those competitions, that's obviously what you have to do. Do you know what I mean? And then
Oh,
I
yeah.
started like watching a lot of drummers, like your Dennis's, and I just watched all of these guys that did solos and stuff, and I started to like develop that side of my playing as well. And maybe like when I would do jazz gigs or fusion gigs, when they ask you to solo, that's your moment. So I also probably started to build up a little bit of a name for myself over here as somebody who could do that stuff as well. But also I'm like happy to give back, you know? So I would start to do like these things with Mike, you know, just these like kind of drum clinics. He'd asked me to do some of them. I ended up playing at the UK drum show a couple times. And then through doing that, I would start to do things for Zildjian or like now Pearl. I was with Tama at the time, but like I would start to do things with them as well. And then it becomes a thing of building relationships, being a cool guy, and building trust, you know? And the more that you do these things and the more relationships that you build with these people who give you these opportunities, the more opportunities that they'll give you.
Absolutely.
You know, so for me, it just kind of worked on a building relationships thing, being cool. And I'd started to make a name for myself of doing clinics, teaching, doing gigs, doing pop gigs, doing jazz gigs. And for me, I say this to everybody, at the bare minimum, guys, just try and learn every style.
Yeah.
You know, just at the bare minimum, just so it can keep you working.
Yep.
Like if I was only the pop guy, then I would only do the pop gigs. If I was only the jazz guy, I would only do the jazz gigs.
Yep.
If I was only the clinic teacher guy, then I would only do that. You know, luckily for me, I've just tried my best to learn a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So when there's no work going on, I can do a clinic, or I can go play in church on Sunday, or I can go to Ronnie Scott's, or I get a call to do The Voice, or I get a call for Ed.
Mhm.
And it just has kept me working.
Yeah.
If you don't read music, you can't play on a film. You can't
Yep.
play with an orchestra. Do you know what I mean? So I say to people, learn to read. You never know when that opportunity will come.
Man.
You know?
That's come. You know what's so funny is just in the last couple weeks we had Teddy Campbell on the podcast, and we
Yeah.
had Brian Fraser Moore on the
Yeah.
podcast,
Both guys who have done everything. You know?
and they've done everything. Yeah, you know, legends, and have just sat at the top and crushed it. And both of them are like, read. You have to read. You have to. Like
man.
reading keeps coming up. I just had Adam Blackstone on last week, and yeah, same thing with him. He's writing out charts. Like he's not even trying to memorize all the songs anymore, right? Like
Yeah.
you got to be able to read for
I've
sure.
got to tell my story, a quick story of the reason why I learned to read.
Yeah.
I got asked to, a few years ago, I got asked to play on a film. And it was a big Disney film. And I got asked to do this session. It's like, come and play on this film. I'm like, cool, this is sick. Like, I'm going to play on this film. And they had sent me the songs. And they had said to me, do you want us to send you the score? And I'm like, at the time I couldn't read. So it's like, do you want me to send you the chart? And I'm like, oh, I'll be all right, man. I'll learn the songs. I'll be all right. And I'm just thinking I can learn it the old school way. Listen to it a couple times. I'll be all right. And I kind of backed myself. So I went into this session, learnt the demo, and thought I'd be all right. Got into the session, set up my drums, and the producer just brought the charts, and I was like, oh, I said that I can't read. He's like, don't worry, we're just putting it here so you know where you are in the songs. Now, like, if you've ever been in a session for a film, like, you kind of play along and they might have, like, the film on the screen.
Yep.
So you can play along to the scene that you're playing. And, like, we're going through it, and I wasn't really nailing it, you know, because obviously if there's bits and bobs on the chart that is telling you what dynamic that you should play. Like just those little intricate things that you're gonna miss.
Yeah.
So like it was a bit stop-starty. And then the guy would be like, all right, cool. We're gonna pick it up from bar 39, letter F. And I'm like, damn, I don't know where that is. So I'm thinking, like, what is that? Is that the second verse? Where is that? Is that the bridge? So what would happen in this session is they'd start and I'd like just pretend to make a mistake. Like I'd drop my stick so I could hear where I was.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, I got through this session, but I knew that they knew I was winging it.
Right.
You know, I could tell that they knew, and I got through the session, but honestly, I felt so embarrassed. I was like, these guys know that I can't read because this kept on happening.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've got through the session, did my best, but I came out of the session feeling like I've been found out.
Yeah.
You know? And it was a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
And say that had happened like at the start of that year, I was like, man, I need to learn how to read because like I've just done one of the biggest sessions I'll ever do for a film. And I've not really come out of this feeling great. I
Yeah,
need to
could have
learn
done
how
better.
to read.
Yeah.
And then quarter of the way through the year, I get a phone call from David Tench, who's like, Dexter, do you want to do the voice? And I'm like, yeah, this sounds sick. He said, all right, cool. It's a heavy reading gig though. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I've just had this session at the earlier that year. I said to Dave, like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can really do this. I knew Ash had just done the gig. I'm thinking like, I've got to take over from Ash. I'm not a strong reader. This is a strong reading gig, but I really want to do this gig. This is a great opportunity for me. And luckily, David said, look, the gig doesn't start until, at the time, it was starting in October. So say Dave had called me in June. It was starting like September, October. And he said, over the summer, I think you can get it done.
Yeah.
You know, just like stick with it. Just do it over the summer. And I'm like, all right, cool. I might need a little bit of time. I'm not 100% sure. But okay, cool. You know, but I was really nervous. And over that summer, I got in with two friends of mine who are like strong readers. And I did that stuff every single day. Every day. Until I was ready, got into that rehearsal. And by the time like that September had come around, I was fluent with the reading. And I was able to do a gig like The Voice. And then from doing that, I was able to do orchestra stuff.
Yeah.
And just more stuff where it was like required me to read. That if I didn't learn how to read, I wouldn't have been able to do The Voice. And I've also remembered that embarrassment. And I was like, I never want to have that feeling ever again.
Yeah.
You never want to go into a session feeling like you've kind of been found out. And knowing that I went into that session kind of just relying on me just being Dexter and not actually putting in the work for my craft.
Right.
I'll never have that feeling again.
And was you did the live action Aladdin movie?
That's what it was for.
That's what it was for. That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, that's what it was for. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, I've got this big film that I've been able to, that I've got, you know, the opportunity that like not a lot of people will get this chance to play on a film.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
let alone
for
a
sure.
film like that.
So are you calling them now being like, hey, let me do it again? Okay,
yeah, I can do it properly this time. You know, but honestly, like, you don't ever want to feel like you've got an opportunity that is as huge as that.
Yeah.
And not feel like you're properly prepared. You know,
Absolutely.
And this isn't just for reading. In my case, it was reading.
Yeah.
But in any case, you don't ever want to feel like you're underprepared because you don't know a genre properly. you haven't rehearsed,
Yeah.
you haven't taken the time out to really listen, to learn songs for a gig, like
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
be prepared.
Yeah, for sure.
That feeling is the worst feeling in the world.
Ever.
The worst feeling in the world. And if
Absolutely.
you're ever lucky enough to recover and get another chance, why would you put yourself in that scenario again where you don't know songs?
Yeah.
Or, you're somebody who just has bad timekeeping. You turn up late to a gig.
Yeah.
You're not prepared. You haven't got the right gear. Just be prepared.
For sure. For sure, man.
That was the lesson. That was a big lesson that I learned, but it served me really well.
Well, dude, you have a great mentality, and obviously you're a happy guy. How do you stay inspired with drums? And like what's like your morning routine like? Like how do you keep your energy going?
Man, at the moment, staying inspired, I feel like I've just gone back to the drawing board. I've been practicing on this again.
Wow. Back to the pad game.
Back to the pad game. Just going back to basics, and really just making sure that I've done my due diligence on this instrument, really just making sure that I've worked as hard as possible. And a normal day for me, I wake up super early, I'll go gym, I'll do the school run, and I'll take my daughter to school, and then I'll go straight to my studio. And I'm basically kind of like practicing or producing or working on something between the school run, and then I'll go and pick her up, and that's kind of like my routine, unless I'm on the road or something like that. But I'm like back on the pad. I'm really enjoying it, by the way. I say to people, like, practicing, by the way, should be hard. If practicing is easy, then you're too comfortable. You're not doing the right thing.
You're not pushing yourself, you're not growing.
You're not pushing yourself,
Yeah.
Like, you should always be playing on the edge of your ability.
Yeah.
That's key. So like if you're practicing and it's too easy, up the BPM. Or if you've been practicing on the same chop and you can only play that chop, switch it up. Try to not
Yeah.
repeat yourself if you can.
For sure.
Like just all of these like little things that I'm trying. And I'm, like I said, I'm not perfect, and I don't really care what people's opinion is of me, as long as for me, I feel like I'm improving and I'm working on my weaknesses. My weakness might be my right hand or my left foot, or for some people, it might be your left hand or whatever it is. If you don't feel like you're improving on your weakness and you're only playing in your comfort zone, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. You're clearly still a student, which is great. I feel like
Still a
a
student,
lot of
man.
people, and the same thing happened to me. Like I feel like when you get these big gigs, especially the big gigs that are just like, whether they're meat and potatoes, sitting in the pocket, whatever, and you're good, you got the great pay, everything is
Yeah.
luxe. You're like, okay, cool. I'm already gonna crush this gig. I don't need to practice to crush this gig. I got it. I've already been doing it for 6 months or whatever. You can lose motivation, because you feel like you're like, oh, I'm already here. I'm not gonna go back to the drum pad.
Yeah, like, by the way, listen, man, like, I'm on a great gig right now,
Mhm.
today. I can't speak for next year.
Yeah.
I can't speak for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, big gigs come and they go.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that you're on whatever's happening next. So for me, like, I'll never get complacent, and like nobody should ever get, no gig is yours
Mhm.
unless you're in the band. Maybe that's a different scenario, but as a session guy, that ain't your gig.
Yeah.
You're the drummer for that gig, but it doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
If Ed wakes up today and doesn't want to have Dexter Hercules on the drums anymore, that's okay.
Yeah.
I need to then angle myself and do something else. So never get complacent, but also when you're doing these gigs, enjoy it, but also come back and still push yourself. If you're doing a gig that is like just meat and potatoes, as soon as I get back, I'll call up some of my friends and be like, yo, let's shed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to feel rusty.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, or I'll go and play at an open mic, because when you're doing any tour and you're playing the same 20 songs per day,
yeah.
you might just need to go to an open mic and play and just like let off some steam.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So like I will still go to Ronnie Scott's, I'll go to Troy Bar, I'll go and find inspiration. You need to find it, because
Yeah.
doing what we do, it's like a revolving door. Do you know what I mean? And it can become
Absolutely.
very monotonous if you're not careful. So you
Absolutely.
need to inspire yourself.
Well, you're doing a great job, man. I'm just right now rediscovering my love for drumming, which
Same.
kind of fell away for me. I like lost it for a few years when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting it back in, and thank God I have people like Terrace Martin and Teddy Campbell like really pushing me now, texting me and being
Yeah.
like, go drum, bro. Come on. And
Yeah,
like
go and practice. I love it, man. I love the drums.
I can
I
tell
love
you
music.
do, dude. Yeah.
I love music. I
Yeah.
honestly, the day that I don't want to practice or I don't want to shed, then that's the time that I need to give it up. But for me, like I'm still excited. Like a couple weeks ago, we had the UK drum show, which is like, you know, our version of NAM.
Yeah. Who played?
You know, Chris Coleman played. Shout out to Chris Coleman. He
One of the greatest.
he's one of the goats, man. He absolutely killed it.
Making it
And
look easy.
making it look easy, dude.
Just
It's so annoying. Like he's so
also
good. And
open hand. Also playing
he's
open.
one of those guys that plays also just like with a smile on his face as well. And you're just like, oh, like this is just easy for you, bro. But I went to the drum show, and even like just like when you're at NAM, I've been NAM a couple times.
Yeah.
And when you're at NAM and you see like a new kit that's just come out, or just that feeling of walking around at a drum show and feeling like a kid again.
Yes.
Like I got that feeling and I was like, cool. Like I still love it. I'm still excited to actually go to the drum show and just check out some new drums, or
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Absolutely. And look at where you are, man.
Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah. I'm still a work in progress. There's still like loads of things that I want to do.
What do you want to
away
do?
from
What's
drum.
next? What's the next 5 years for Dexter Hercules?
The next 5 years for me is made up of a lot more production, a lot more writing, managing.
Managing?
Yes, sir.
Managing artists?
Managing artists.
Oh, really?
I just had a artist that I was in with yesterday who I'm managing.
Are you an
who's
operator?
incredible. I'm trying to be.
Oh, dude, I like this. It's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, you got to try everything.
Yeah.
You got to try everything in the same way that I say to people, learn different styles, learn the industry, read books, watch podcasts, like learn how to write songs, learn how to be a part of the creation process.
Absolutely.
There's so much things that like the music industry is not just for killing drummers. Like it's for a whole load of people.
Yeah.
And there's so much things that you can do. There's so much things that you can do away from music. You can go into property. There's so much things that you can do. So for me, the next 5 years, I'm still going to be playing drums and I still want to do my session stuff. But there's a whole load of other bits and bobs that I want to do as well.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. The more you got to be able to bring value, the more value you can bring to a gig or to another person's life, whether that's an artist or it's a musician or it's a producer or it's a label, whatever it is, the more value you can bring, the better.
I know you get like a lot of people watching this podcast and a lot of people that follow your platform. Like, and honestly, like everybody says the same thing. We're not saying the same thing for no reason. Like,
Yeah.
I know it sounds cliche, but you have to learn how to do many different things. You have to learn different genres. You have to learn how to write songs. You have to learn how to, manage, or even just like what we were talking about at the start, like making content. How do
Yeah.
you make yourself different?
Yeah.
Like me, even just putting out a video where it's like the day in the life of what it's like doing a stadium tour is maybe different to any other different bits of content that I've seen from drummers who I love and respect. And that's me just trying to do something else,
Yeah.
and people realizing, oh, he's a personality. Like a lot of the time, if you follow my stories, I post a lot about me watching football
Hmm.
and me commentating on football stuff, like it doesn't just have to be drums and chops. Like, and honestly, there's people who care and there's a lot of people who don't care.
Yeah.
There's a
Absolutely.
lot of people who absolutely don't care about how fast you play,
Yeah.
And
typically those are the people that are going to bring you opportunity.
It's the truth. It's the
Unless you're
truth.
getting called for the shredder gig, but usually the more notes, the less money.
Absolutely, but
Yeah.
that's what the clinics are for.
Yeah.
And when I do the
exactly.
clinics, I'd play whatever I want to play.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like when it's time to Dexter go and do your solo, you go play whatever you want to play.
Absolutely,
Do you know what I mean?
man. Absolutely. I love it, dude. And
Thanks,
I
man.
think the other main thing that's good with trying all these things, like you're saying, you managing, I had no idea about that, and I love to see you do that, because whether or not that becomes a profession of you managing, like if you actually end up making income from it or not, no matter what, it's going to make you a better musician, and you're going to work with artists better, because you're also going to have empathy for the manager, and you're going to understand what the manager's doing, and you should be able to even help the manager more in any way, which then is you just bringing more value to whatever project you're doing. And that's why I asked you when you said you're a manager, I'm like, wait, are you an operator? Because so many musicians are not, right? Or creatives, not just musicians. So many creatives are not operators. And when you find that rare creative operator, that's when you get a Jay-Z, right?
Yeah.
That's when you get these Beyoncés.
And they're the levels that like we aspire to.
Exactly.
One book that I read that changed my life was L.A. Reid's book.
Oh, I haven't read
L.A. Reid
that.
was a drummer.
L.A. Reid was a drummer?
Oh my gosh.
I did not know that.
L.A. Reid, in his book, you hear L.A. Reid talking about like, I grew up wanting to be Billy Cobham.
Wow.
L.A. Reid was a drummer, man. He started off as a drummer and played drums in a band,
That's
and then he
amazing.
developed the ears, and then he started writing songs in the band that he was playing drums for, became a songwriter, then eventually becomes a manager. And like, honestly, read his book. It's called Sing to Me. It's one of
That's
the
really
greatest
cool.
books I've ever read in my life. And,
Man, I'm going to read that. It also just shows the journey,
incredible.
man, going on that journey and being open-minded and trying new things. You never know where it's going to take you.
And honestly, like when you read his book, I mean, like L.A. Reid, if you're watching this, I'm a big fan and I would love to meet you one day. And I would love to just understand exactly how you done it. But it resonated with me because he really wanted to be a drummer.
Yeah.
Like a session guy, like what we do.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Billy Cobham, that's not just being a drummer. That's being a drummer.
Like he knows. He's talking about Mahavishnu.
Yeah.
In this book, at the bare minimum, like you said, he developed his ears.
Yeah.
He knows what makes a good song. And then he ended up knowing how to find a good artist.
Yeah.
And then he knew how to set up a record label.
For sure.
And so on and so forth. Do you get what I'm saying? So for
me, man, you learn the whole ecosystem. Now you can play offense. When you know everything, you can play offense. You're not just waiting for someone to call you, right? Like you can
Absolutely.
create opportunities and create IP and assets and find someone that
Absolutely.
you think is super talented and be like, let me help you get to the next level,
Yeah.
like, and that's
And
the
most of
big
these
unlock.
people, if like managers, a lot of the time they'll say, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah,
I just trusted my gut. And that's all that I'm doing.
for
That's all
sure.
that you do when you're writing a song. People are gifted to write songs, but they're just writing from their heart. In the same way, when we play, there's no right or wrong way to play. You play what you feel. You play what you've
Absolutely.
learned, and then you trust the process.
For sure. For sure. Outside of drumming, are you a Formula One fan? I know you're British.
I'm not a Formula One fan. I'm not.
Oh,
I'm not. I'm a big football fan.
I
I'm a
know
big
you're a big
Arsenal
football
fan.
fan. Arsenal fan. Okay, nice.
Oh man, the greatest team in the world. The
Absolutely.
greatest team in the world. I'm super competitive. I played a lot of sports, and then I had a knee problem. So basically, I was going to be a professional footballer, obviously,
Yeah.
and then I hurt my knee, so I just turned to the drums.
Oh, dude, I'm glad that you hurt your knee because I'm glad you're drumming.
Exactly.
And it's funny as I sit here with my freaking torn calf.
Yeah, I know the feeling, bro.
The last thing I want to do is play tennis, and what I actually really want to do is play drums. So I feel like this injury is actually pulling me closer to playing drums, and I desire it, and I was kind of
Yeah.
missing that desire to play on my
It's a
own.
good time to get on the pad.
Yeah, I got a pad next to me. Luke Holland brought
Yeah.
me a little drum pad and put it right next to me. I was like, "Thank you, bro."
Yeah, man.
So,
Yeah.
so now I'm just sitting there being like, I know paradiddles and I know double paradiddles. Besides that, I forgot everything.
Yeah, man. It's good to
Slam taps.
just go back to basics, get the hands flowing, and again, like I said, just like fall back in love with it. I hadn't been on my
Absolutely.
pad in years. I've got the luxury of having a kit. This is another thing in the UK that's like different to a lot of setups in the US. I'm lucky enough to have a studio, but most of us in the UK can't play drums in our houses.
Yeah.
It's not it's not the same. Like just the structure of our houses is not like we don't have basements where you can go ham in the basement.
That's why I was asking, how do you become a drummer growing up
Yeah.
there?
A lot of it is like, in some cases, taking a kit to a studio. Some people are lucky, like my good friend, Jonathan Hamilton. He plays drums with Sam Smith.
Yes.
He grew up 5 minutes away from me. That's my boy.
That's
But
awesome.
Ginge, he could play drums in his house. And I remember being like, oh my God, like your neighbors don't complain. Because the houses are so close to each other,
Yeah.
But like Ginger's kind of like a one-off really, because I've got so much friends who they can't
I can't do it.
do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Some people have got to get pads, electric pads. They practice at school. They practice at church, or they got to hire out studios. So it's
Man.
a proper graft, to really make it.
Well, dude, you're doing a great job. I love watching you crush these stadiums. I want to
Thank you
see
so
you
much,
in
man.
LA. Come visit me and LA Reid. It's not London Reid, bro. You got to come here. Okay. Come visit
For
us, dude.
sure.
Bring Dexter Hercules to
For sure,
LA,
man.
man. I'm glad we got to spend time together, dude.
And honestly, like it's been an I mean, I've been like watching your platform, and this is the cool thing about like being from here. I get to meet you guys, and it's such a big deal. Do you know what I mean? Like I've been watching your platform for years, and you've been putting in work and putting on the most incredible musicians. So for me to be a part of it is, an absolute honor. So thank you so much. We got to get your leg healed up, because as soon as I come out there, I'm gonna have to beat you at every sport that we try.
come compete with me, bro. I'm gonna be drumming. So when you come here and we shed, and I'm like, come to the basement. You ever see one of these, man? No. And dude,
Not to play
we
some tennis, man.
we gotta do since you're an operator and you're managing and you're doing the business
Yes, sir.
things, bro. Let's set up the London Jam Jam, dude.
Yes.
We had it set up and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
we need to do it. We had one set up at Abbey Road. No one knows this because we didn't announce it because we never announced the Jam Jams until like the day before and only to the
Yeah.
members. But we had one set up at Abbey Road, and then then that whole heat wave came where it melted the trains. So we
Yeah.
canceled it.
Yeah.
But
What a
dude, let's
weird
do it,
time,
man. Let's
I would love
build
to.
let's build London Jam Jam, bro, and you can lead
I
it,
would
man.
love to,
We'll
man.
do it together.
There's again, just shout out to everybody who's from the UK. Like, there's so much amazing musicians who like the world doesn't know.
Throw them out, bro. Say the names.
One of my best friends, Nathaniel Tones Fuller. He's such a beast on drums. Ben Jones, Vula, the singer. My boy Stephen, who plays the drums with his own band, The Composers, who are absolutely smashing. They just sold out Wembley Arena by themselves.
Amazing.
Killing. Yusuf, Days, killing. My boy Daniel John. But there's so much. There's so much, man.
I love being out there and meeting everybody, and yeah, man. Next time I'm out there, let's just set it up, bro. Let's make this
Yeah, we will
happen.
do.
Because what's so cool about the Jam Jam, I know you haven't been to one yet in person, but it's such a homecoming feeling, right? Because it brings
Yeah.
everyone together, all the different genres, all the different ages. Like
Yeah.
it really brings everyone together, and it feels like this like celebration, and kind of reminds you, oh, this is why we're doing this, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
we need that,
for
man.
us. And so let's make it happen. But dude, thanks for taking the time.
Yes, sir.
Dexter Hercules.
Go with Elmo. 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 Go with Elmo.
This is the stuff, man.